Why did the so-called golden age of serial killers come to such an abrupt end? Maybe because the world changed. Because the net closed in. Because cameras went up, databases went live, phones started ringing 3 digits instead of 10,
911.
and the internet connected everything. See, the monsters didn't stop. The world stopped letting them move. Did technology kill the serial killer? Welcome to Breakfast Cereal. My name's Josh. If you've been following along, you know I've been building a series asking, where did all the serial killers go? What killed the so-called golden age of serial killers? You know, that strange, terrifying stretch in the 70s and 80s when it felt like Kemper, Berkowitz, and Ramirez were everywhere all at once. So far, I've tackled lead poisoning, DNA, long-haul trucking, even the controversial idea that serial killers just evolved into mass shooters. If you're new here, hit subscribe, check out the backlog, and dive into the comments because honestly, that's where half of the real conversation happens. There are thousands of theories down there in some cases, and I love reading through them. But today, I want to zoom out a little wider. I want to talk about technology in the big sense. The stuff that turned the late 20th century into the early 21st. Not just DNA, but everything else. Let's start with this chart, because you know I love a good chart. And if you've been around here for a little while, this chart is starting to look very, very familiar. Serial killings in the US peak in the late 70s and early 80s, spiking way above anything seen before. Then, suddenly, by the mid-90s, downhill, a sharp decline. By the 2000s, the line is flat. I mean, barely a shadow of its former self. Now, overlay another line, technological adoption. Home computers, cell phones, surveillance cameras, national crime databases, the spread of 911 systems, the internet, the rise of caller ID, ATMs with cameras, even store security systems. And those two lines, look, they almost cross like an X. As the killers drop, tech rises. Coincidence? As we see again, maybe. But again, hard to ignore the timing. When I first started looking at this, it reminded me of my own hometown, actually, when we first started installing its first set of traffic cameras. People complained like crazy. It's like, oh, Big Brother's watching. They said it was pointless. But guess what happened? Car accidents at that intersection where they put in the first ones dropped by like almost half. I mean, not because people suddenly cared about safety, but because they knew they were being watched. Now, imagine being a predator in 1977. No cameras, no databases, no caller ID. It was like the wild fucking West. The NCIC, National Crime Information Center, went live in 1967, but it really came into its own in the 80s and 90s.
The National Crime Information Center is a computerized system serving all law enforcement agencies, local, state, and federal.
You could think of it as like a giant digital filing cabinet for law enforcement across the US. It stores everything. Criminal records, stolen vehicles, missing persons, warrants, fingerprints. Suddenly, you got a cop in Nebraska could type in a license plate and know instantly if it was connected to a crime in Arizona. I mean, that was revolutionary. Then came ViCAP, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, launched by the FBI in 1985. ViCAP was designed specifically with serial offenders in mind. It's a database that tracks the details of violent crimes, methods, victim types, crime scene signatures, and it looks for patterns across jurisdictions. So if a strangulation in Kansas looked eerily similar to one in Oklahoma, ViCAP could flag it. Before that, those cases would have lived and died in separate filing cabinets. I mean, that seems absolutely huge. don't you think? I mean, even if it wasn't perfect, and ViCAP especially struggled in the early years because not every department was using it properly or reporting it. It was the beginning of a net, though. A net that got tighter every single year. Let's talk about cameras. In the 70s, you could walk down a street, grab someone, shove them into a car, and unless somebody physically saw you with their own 2 eyes, you were invisible. Surveillance cameras were incredibly rare, grainy if they were there, and just local. By the late 90s, though, suddenly cameras are everywhere. So look at Israel Keys. He thought he was smarter than the system. He planned meticulously, stashed kill kits across states, went to extraordinary lengths to beat the system and go undetected. But when he abducted Samantha Koenig in 2012, cameras began closing the circle almost immediately. An ATM camera caught him withdrawing money from her account. Gas station cameras picked up the car he was driving. Each frame, each timestamp, stitched together his trail. In another era, he probably would have slipped through. So here's where I think about my own childhood again. I grew up in the 90s, so when the first camcorders were becoming a little more common, my friend's mom had one of these giant ones, it was like this big. It basically had a VCR attached to it. She'd bring it to our baseball games, and it looked like a news crew was showing up. But by the time I was in high school, cameras, they were getting smaller. We had digital cameras, right? Like those Canon Power Shots and stuff. And then a few years later, of course, phones. I can't even imagine being able to do something violent in public and not ending up on like a dozen lenses at this point. See, serial killers are predators of opportunity. Take away anonymity, and you're taking away half their hunting ground.
This is 911. Do you have an emergency?
It's easy to forget how revolutionary the 911 system was. I assumed it had been around like practically forever. I was pretty shocked when researching for this very episode to learn that nationwide adoption of 911, that didn't even start until the 80s. And it wasn't even until the mid-90s that it was like standard. Before that, you had to find a landline, know the number for the local police, and like pray to God and hope that they picked up. That's fucking wild. Oh, he's having a heart attack, quick! Somebody call 555-737-2768. Like, Jesus. Now add caller ID. Before the 90s, a guy like BTK could torment the police and victims' families even. Endless anonymous phone calls. Technology finally broke that tool too. I mean, imagine a serial killer somehow missed that memo. Like, imagine BTK. Hello, this is BTK calling. Says here this is Dennis Rader. Oh shit. Hey, while I got you, you know if it's possible by chance to trace a floppy disk? I mean, that's kind of funny, but it's literally how it went down, idiot. He asked the police through a newspaper personal ad, which is how they were kind of communicating, if it was possible to trace a floppy disk. Obviously, the police responded with, no, of course not. No. So dumb old Dennis sends a floppy disk to the police. Metadata immediately traced it back to a computer at Dennis's church. And speaking of computers, the internet changed everything. Not just for killers, but for victims too. In the 70s, if someone went missing, word traveled very slowly. Posters on telephone poles. You've seen it on movies and TV, but for real, posters on telephone poles. I mean, local news. Maybe you get a police press conference. But now, a missing persons alert can go viral in hours. Photos shared across the globe, entire communities mobilized online. I mean, look at Luka Magnotta. See, he wanted to be infamous, and he used the internet as his stage. Before he ever killed a person, he posted disturbing videos online of animal cruelty. Entire internet communities spotted the clips, debated whether they were real, and started trying to track him down. So when he murders Jun Lin in 2012, he filmed it, uploaded the footage, and then fled the country. And here's where the internet really showed its power. Interpol alerts went out, news stories raced ahead of him, and thousands of strangers on the internet picked up the trail. So if you've ever seen the Netflix documentary, this one, Don't Fuck with Cats, you know the story. A handful of amateur sleuths on Facebook went full detective mode. They froze frames, analyzed the backgrounds, tracked down items in the room, even tried to triangulate his location based on things like the style of electrical outlets. See, for better or worse, the internet made it possible for the average person to play detective. And it's not always a good thing. Vigilante internet investigators can easily misidentify people, ruin innocent lives even. But in Magnotta's case, it created a pressure cooker. He couldn't move without someone online trying to pin him down. He was finally caught by technology and his own vanity. He went into an internet cafe in Berlin, logged online to read stories. What do you think he was reading about? Himself. The clerk recognized him, called the police, and the net snapped shut. Now, here's the pushback. If technology really killed the serial killer, why do we still see cases pop up? Why do we still uncover guys like Samuel Little, who confessed to killing 90 women over decades? Seems to me that maybe some killers adapted. They targeted the most vulnerable, the homeless, sex workers, addicts, people society still tends to overlook. Even with tech, if nobody cares enough to look for the victim, the predator can slip through. So maybe it's not that technology ended serial killers entirely. Maybe it's just made the game harder. The careers that used to last decades now burn out in 1 or 2 murders. And that brings me to the bigger question. Did technology really kill the serial killer, or did it just change the shape of the shadows? Because every time we build a new wall, predators find a crack. DNA, databases, cameras, they close doors, but human darkness doesn't just vanish, it adapts. And maybe the scariest thought is this: for all the progress we've made, are we just fooling ourselves? Is safety real, or is it just another illusion until the next predator figures out how to beat the system? What do you think? Did technology end the golden age of serial killers? Or are the monsters still out there, just better hidden? Did we build a safer world, or just a world with a new kind of danger? I want to hear your thoughts, so drop them in the comments, argue it out, share your theories. If you want to dive deeper, check out my other episodes on DNA, lead poisoning, long-haul truckers, and the idea that serial killers evolved into mass shooters. And if you're new here, hey, hit that subscribe button because I'm not done with these questions yet.